Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 65 of Be With Me. And my prayer today is that the Lord would give us eyes to see His principles, eyes to see His truth, eyes to see the big picture and not miss the forest for the trees, so to speak, and to value and treasure. Help us, Lord, to value and treasure the things that you value and treasure. So I'm going to title this, What Does God Give Weight To? And the way that this passage goes today is it's purely by contrast to a bad example. So we have the scribes and the Pharisees. They're an excellent example of being bad examples today. And basically the Lord is going to spend the whole time yelling at them and pronouncing woes and almost curses upon them for the bad things that they're doing. And with that, we're going to be able to see what the Lord does value and what's important to the Lord and what He likes, sort of as a contrast. So here we go. This is in Matthew 23. The entire chapter is the Lord going off on scribes and Pharisees. We're going to start at verse 13 today, and this is the first woe. There's 7 of them. We're going to get to 4 of them today. Verse 13, but woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. For you neither enter yourselves, nor allow those who would enter to go in. That's the first one. Here's the second one. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel across the sea and land to make a single proselyte, and when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much of a child of hell as yourselves. And here's the third one. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, if anyone swears by the temple, it's nothing, but if he swears by the gold of the temple, he's bound by his oath. You blind fools, which is greater, the gold of the temple that is made, or the temple that has made the gold sacred? And you say, if anyone swears by the altar, it's nothing, but if anyone swears by the gift of the altar, he's bound by his oath. You blind men, which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? So whoever swears by the altar swears by it and everything in it, and whoever swears by the temple swears by it and him who dwells in it. And whoever swears by heaven swears by the throne of God and by him who sits upon it. And here's the fourth woe. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you tithe, take a tenth of, your mint and dill and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. These you ought to have done without neglecting the others. You blind guides, straining out a gnat and swallowing a camel. All right, so here's the things I'm getting from this passage today. First of all, the first woe is this shut door. You have shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. And that is using your position, your teaching, your theology to actually close the kingdom for other people. And I think this reveals that the Lord loves His kingdom, and the Lord loves the people in His kingdom, and He doesn't like you actually keeping people out of the kingdom. 2 is similar in the sense that He gets this proselyte and calls them a child of hell. So by getting them in the scribe land and Pharisee land, they actually don't head towards God, you head away from God. Again, loving His truth, loving His people, and wanting people to be in His kingdom. That's what I'm getting at these things. Then the third woe is all about this long section about what you take an oath to, and temple versus the gold of the temple, or the gift on the altar versus the altar. And I think it's leading towards the superficial distinction versus plain speak. It's these principles that he's getting at where they're missing the forest for the trees, and that's really described in the fourth woe. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you tithe mint and dill and cumin and little garden spices, but you neglect the weightier matters of the law. And then he tells us what he cares about: justice and mercy and faithfulness. So he goes big picture. Don't forget the details, but let's major on the majors. So here's what I get in getting at this. What's important to God? And all of this is by contrast. So the kingdom is important. The Lord wants people in his kingdom. He wants to facilitate others going into the kingdom and not facilitate others not going into the kingdom. He wants truth. He wants to give us eyes to see. I think 4 times, he talks about the blind guides and blind fools and blind men, and again, blind guides. So he wants to give us eyes to see. Lord, may that happen today. And I think the Lord wants us to treasure the big stuff. Now, not neglecting the details. And he says, don't neglect these things, but major on the majors. Don't forget that the Lord is about some big stuff, and we need to jump into his thought pattern and love what he loves, give weight to what he gives weight to. And to be weighed, we should be weighed down by what the burdens of God's heart are. Well, boy, I'd sure love to know what they are. Well, here it is. His kingdom, important to God, condemned in the Pharisees. His people, his truth, being plain, being a good leader if you're in that world, certainly being a good influence no matter what your world. And then the big finish here is justice. The weightier matters, he tells us what they are. Justice. We have a God of justice and mercy and faithfulness. This is likely going to the Old Testament of God being faithful to a bunch of knuckleheads like us. Mercy, that is going to be very clearly described as he finishes the rest of the great week and goes to the cross. So let's major on the major. Let's be burdened by the things that God has told us to be burdened by, and the things that apparently burden him, that he is weighted down by. Let's be weighted by the same things. Thanks for listening.